If you are someone who is learning English and you speak English as a second language, then I would guess that you probably overuse the word this. I've been teaching English in Europe for many years now, and often I hear people using the word this when in reality they should be using the word that. And so today my goal is to explain the difference between how we use the word this and how we use the word that. And I'm just gonna say something real quick before I go into details. It is my personal opinion that if you use the word that instead of the word this, I think that 90% of the time it will sound better, okay? So that's not always gonna be true, but more than likely, every time you, as someone who is learning English, is using the word this, you would probably sound better using the word that. Now, obviously, I don't know that for sure, but based on my experiences working with people who are learning English, I would say that that is probably true. But before we can talk about how we use the words this and that, I think it is important to understand how to properly pronounce the words this and that. So first of all, if you know any of my previous videos, you know that whenever we have a TH like this and that, it is very important for us to stick out our tongue, right? Our tongue is going to be a little bit between our teeth. Now, obviously, I'm going to exaggerate it to show you how it looks in an exaggerated form, right? This, that, this, that. Do you see how my tongue is sticking out? Now, the big mistake that a lot of people make is that instead of saying this or that, they are saying dies or dat. Or what's even worse, is they're saying zis or zat, okay? Don't do that. That is, like, do you not hear the difference? I understand that people speak different languages. I understand that everyone has a different accent, but seriously, if you're saying zis instead of this, or zat instead of that, like, do you not hear how bad that sounds? Or do you just hear it and you think, yeah, I know that sounds absolutely terrible, but I'm not gonna make any effort whatsoever to not sound absolutely terrible when I pronounce this and that. So again, stick out your tongue. This, that. It's not a D, it's not dis, and it's not dat. Which, by the way, dis and dat is not a whole lot better than zis and zat. So please fix this. If you care about the way you sound in English, if you care about the way people hear you speaking English, if you care about people's opinion about your English, then please start focusing on how to pronounce the TH. This, that. This is not optional. This is not just like something extra. No, this is how you speak English. This is a major part of speaking English. The other part of pronouncing the word this is the letter I, right? It is pronounced this. It's an is. The letter I, and I've said this before, the letter I in English is almost never E. So we're not saying these. No, it's this. It's an I, this. This and that. You hear the difference between this and dies? Do you hear how different that is? I want you to tell me which one sounds better. I don't know what this is, as opposed to, I don't know what dies is. Do you hear the difference? Which one sounds better? This or dies? This, dies. I know you can hear the difference. So first of all, please start working on your pronunciation of TH and of the letter I, because it makes a big difference. People will hear the difference. People will notice that you are saying it wrong. People will judge you for not being able to pronounce TH and not being able to pronounce I. If you're unable or unwilling to try to say this instead of dies, or if you're gonna continue pronouncing I like E instead of I, right? This instead of dies, then unfortunately, people will judge you as not being able to speak English well. Even if your English is great, even if grammatically you are very good, even if you're able to have a good conversation in English, if you're pronouncing TH and I wrong, people will automatically think that your English is worse than it is. Now, if that is your goal, and sometimes that might be beneficial, well then by all means, please continue saying dies or zis instead of this. Okay, so now I'm done with that, all right? I hope you guys don't take it the wrong way. I'm not here trying to discourage you from speaking English. I'm not here to make it sound like you guys suck at speaking English. That's not the point. My point is to bring awareness, to show you how important this is, because people have no idea how important TH and I are in the English language, and they continue saying it wrong, and they don't make any effort to improve it, and they don't even know that they're saying it wrong. So that's why I'm teaching you this. Okay, so my last sentence, that's why I'm teaching you this. That's a good way to explain what we're talking about here. So the difference between this and that is that this is close to us, whereas that is something that's a little further or far away. So if I said this shirt, you see, it's my shirt, it's right here, it's this shirt. But if there's a shirt over there, I would say that shirt. I would say, I don't like that shirt, but I like this shirt. So generally speaking, if I can touch something, then it is this. But if I can't touch it, then it is that. I can say, hey, I like this tree, but I don't like that tree. Now, obviously, I don't have a problem with that tree. I'm just, that's just an example. That tree's perfectly fine, So, for example, let's say we're talking about a movie, okay? We're talking about a movie, and I said, hey, I really like The Lord of the Rings. And then you might say, incorrectly, by the way, I really like this movie. Okay, at least it's my opinion that that's incorrect because it sounds weird, right? Why? There's no reason to say this movie because we are not watching that movie, right? It's that movie because that movie is not near us. It's not next to us, right? Just because I mentioned it, it doesn't mean that it's here. If we were in the theaters, if we were in the movie theater watching that movie, then I would say, hey, I really like this movie because we're watching this movie right now. Or if I had a copy of the DVD of The Lord of the Rings and I said, hey, I love this movie. So basically, it would be weird to say this movie if we're not talking about the movie that's happening right now. Just because I mentioned that movie doesn't mean that that movie now becomes this movie. Let me give you another example of where it would be wrong to say this, okay? And this is, by the way, why I'm saying that generally it is better to say that. Now, did you hear how I just said, this is why I say? It would be absolutely fine for me to say, that is why I say. So I would say 90% of the time, if you're not sure which one to say, just say that, because that will almost always work. If I said, hey, have you read the book 1984? It would be wrong to say, yes, this is a good book. No, because we don't have the book. We're talking about a book that isn't next to us, right? We would say that is a good book. If someone said, hey, let's go get some coffee, it would be wrong to say, oh, this is a good idea. No, even though that idea happened now, it still sounds weird to say this is a good idea. I would say that is a good idea. So do you see why I say that it's much better to say that than this, that is almost always better than this. This just sounds worse. And I'm not sure why, but when I think of this, I think about, like, I don't know, someone from the Soviet Union, where they're like, "This is a good idea, comrade." It just sounds unnatural, and I can't imagine a native speaker saying that, right? We would say that's. We wouldn't even say that is a good idea. We'd say that's a good idea. That's a cool car. Or I'm not saying this. Now, if I touched it and I said, "Hey, this is a cool car," maybe. But why am I touching it? I could just be like, "That's a cool car," right? It's much better to say that, unless I'm inside of the car, and then I could say, "This is a cool car. Look how close I am to the scooter." I would say, "Hey, look at that scooter." Now, by the way, I was close enough to where I could have said, "Hey, look at this scooter," but guess what? It's just as good and just as acceptable, and I would argue even better and much more natural to say that in that example. Now, do you see how I said in that example? Because that example is like further away. It's not here. So if I gave you an example now, I would say this example is different than that example. So this and that is helpful and absolutely necessary when we're using both this and that. So for example, hey, I don't like that movie, but I like this movie. I don't like that car, but I like this car. Now, obviously, this car is gonna be closer than that car. Now, could we say I like that car, but I don't like that car? Yeah, absolutely. We definitely could say that. So this is why I'm saying that saying that is almost always better than saying this. And you're rarely gonna be wrong. You can say that, again, I could be wrong, all right? But for the most part, from what I've noticed, is that if you're saying that instead of this, most of the time you'll be fine and you will sound more natural than if you say this. So if you're unsure what to say, just try saying that. So again, generally speaking, this is something we can touch, and that is something that is a little further away that we can't necessarily touch, right? If I'm talking about like, hey, look at that guy, then that guy is far away. Look at that guy. But if I can touch the guy, if I can like grab him, like, look at this guy right here, you know, I love this guy, give him a noogie. So I think generally speaking, for things we can physically touch, we can say this. It makes sense that we are physically touching something, and we can say this. If we cannot physically touch something, then we would say that. But when we talk about ideas, when we talk about concepts, when we talk about thoughts, then I think it is generally better to say that all the time. Or at least 90% of the time, I think it is better to say that. Such as, hey, that's a good idea. Even though the person just had the idea and they said, hey, why don't we go shoe shopping? And then you're like, yeah, that's a good idea. It would be weird to say, this is a good idea, right? That, again, that makes me think of like someone from the Soviet Union where they're just like, yes, this is a good idea, comrade. Let us go for the shopping of the shoes. If I was talking to an American and they said in an American accent, yeah, this is a good idea, I would think, wait a minute, is this person a spy and they're pretending to be American? Before I forget, maybe we should talk about plurals, right? This is one, these are many. Same thing with that. That is one, those are many. So I would say, hey, look at those people. Now I could say, hey, look at these people, if they're like really close, right? And if there's like two groups of people, there are people that are like further away, then I would say those people. But there's like another group that's closer, then I would say, hey, these people. Hey, watch out for these people over here. So therefore I would say, hey, watch out for these people over here, but hey, watch out for those people over there. Now I don't have to say over here or over there, I could just say, hey, watch out for these people. Or watch out for those people. Now, by the way, if you're not sure which one to say, those people I think will always work. Hey, watch out for those people. I think watch out for those people will work if they're far away or if they're close. I think both times it will be fine. But if the people are like really far away and I said watch out for these people, well, that would probably sound weird or just simply not correct. Even here, you can see we have a bench. I would say, hey, that's a nice bench. But now I would say, hey, this is a nice bench because I'm on it right now. This is a nice bench. That is a nice bench. Now, could I say this is a nice bench? Maybe, yeah, probably. But I could say that's a nice bench. And now I would say that's a nice bench. I would say that's a nice bench too. But if I wanted to, I could say this bench is nicer than that bench because that bench is further than this bench. So whenever we have two, it makes sense to use this and that. But if we just have one and you don't know which one to say and you can't touch it, just say that. But going back to ideas, concepts, right? Same thing with, like, I don't know, maybe you're going to school and you could say, hey, I'm taking a really hard math class. I'm taking a class in calculus. It would be wrong if I said, oh, calculus? This is a hard class. No, I know we're talking about it right now, but no, I would say that is a hard class. Whew, calculus, whew, that's tough, that's hard. See, I'm not even saying that is, I'm saying that's. So again, ideas, I think it's better to say that. Because if you're saying this, if we're talking about, yeah, math is hard, I've always had trouble with that, right? It would be weird to say, I've always had trouble with this. Again, now we're going back to the whole comrade thing, where it's like, oh, yes, calculus, this is very difficult class, comrade. So ultimately, that's my last piece of advice, is that if it's physical and you're touching it, we could say this. Like, for example, this is a busy street, right? Because I'm like on this street. Even though I'm not physically on the street, I'm still on the street, right? This is like, this street has a name and I'm on this street. So I would say this is a busy street because I'm physically touching it. But if we're talking about something that's like a thought, an idea, a concept, then I think it's always better to say that. But either way, generally speaking, it's always gonna be better to say that. That's just my opinion. Oh, you see how I said that's just my opinion? Even though that opinion just happened, I'm literally just talking about that opinion right now. I mean, I guess I could say I'm talking about this opinion right now, but even that sounds weird. I wouldn't say that, right? Do you hear how I'm using that? That is just better. Stop saying this, all right? Just stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. And I know this video is one giant generalization, okay? My recommendation is to look this up. Check this topic. Research the difference between this and that. But also remember, just because something is grammatically correct, just because something is officially correct in some language does not mean that that is how native speakers use it, okay? So I think you'll find a lot of information where they're talking about this is correct, and yeah, is it correct? Sure. But do people say it like that? No. Anyway, that's it. That's my whole video. Like it, subscribe, share it with your friends. I don't know what to say, all right? Get your friends to watch this channel. Let's get some more people so I can yell at them about how they're speaking English wrong, all right? So thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye.